You know what's ironic about a Game of Thrones makeup collection is that pretty much the only people that wear makeup in the entire show are like the Dothraki. And then it's just like black eyeliner and that's it. Hello, my friend. So today I am going to be reviewing the Game of Thrones palette by Urban Decay. I have been testing this and I've got everything you need to know about this palette. If you want a thorough, in-depth review so you can decide whether this palette is right for you, hang tight. We're getting into it right now. All right, so as part of this review, I decided I was going to start watching Game of Thrones in preparation for this review because I didn't want to mispronounce anything. I am currently on the very last episode of season 6, so I feel like I've educated myself pretty well. First season was a little tough to get through. Just Game of Thrones in general, if you haven't watched it, the first couple of seasons are very, very adult HBO kind of feeling as far as the extra X-rated things that are in it. But then it starts to get more R-rated as far as violence goes and less of kind of the excessive things that really weren't needed but probably attracted viewers in the first place. At least some. I'm really curious to know if you do watch the show, which characters you identify with most. For me, it's definitely Brienne of Tar because she's so passionate about what she does, and when she does something, she wants to do it well, and she wants to go in and she wants to rock it, and she doesn't give up until she knows that she's done a good job, and I identify with that so much. And also Samwell with, him, how he likes to study and learn and all of that, and just can't really get with the killing of the show. He just doesn't really fit in, and I think that's the way I would be if I was in Westeros. But so that's enough with the Game of Thrones stuff for now. Let's just get into the eyeshadow palette. So it is $65 and it is currently available at urbandecay.com, Ulta, Nordstrom, Belk, Macy's, and Sephora. It's been released in lots more places. Originally, the launch was just on Urban Decay, and that's just, in my opinion, from what I know about it, to make more money because they get the most money if they don't have to go through any kind of distributor. It's really smart on Urban Decay's part. The palette is made in the USA, but it does say it's made with imported ingredients. We don't know where those ingredients are imported from because they don't need to tell us legally. Their cruelty-free status, I'll read what it says on their website. It says, "We do not test our products on animals, nor do we allow others to test on our behalf, such as in places like China." Then they say, "Additionally, we require our suppliers to certify that the raw materials used to manufacture our products are not tested on animals." And that's really big, especially with imported ingredients. They say their brand is certified by PETA as cruelty-free. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, honestly. In order to be certified by PETA, you just have to say, I am cruelty-free, and they're like, cool, here's a bunny. And that's pretty much how PETA certification works. The Leaping Bunny is a little bit more legit when it comes to that. Speaking of being a little bit more legit, they are owned by L'Oreal, which is not a cruelty-free parent company because they do sell on mainland China, which continues to test on animals for pre-market testing. So depending on your level of cruelty-freeness, this may or may not be cruelty-free to you. Let's talk a little bit about what you get and the packaging. This is the outer box that it comes in. It just echoes the inside of the palette and also the outside of it. And in true Urban Decay, fantastically overdramatic, unusable, weird form, they have put some interesting things inside. They've put a mirror, which isn't going to be super functional because it does flop backwards, so you're gonna have to lean it up against something if you want this to be a functional mirror. And then it's got a quote here that I'm not going to read to you, but if there's room in the description box, I'll throw it down there from Daenerys. And then there's a little tab here, and when you open it, la la la, you have the Iron Throne there, and then there's a Tyrion quote down at the bottom. So this has no makeup function, it's just kind of cool. Get this for you. So if you remember the Alice Through the Looking Glass palette, it was similar. They had a flip open top where they had a quote, and then inside they had this cool little floppy butterfly thing. So they're just kind of going with that. So once you get past this thick part here that's completely unnecessary to the product, but very fun maybe for fans of the show, you pull this out, and then this does remove all the way. I like being able to hold this in my hand and use it. So I think that's really nice. I know a lot of people felt like they wish that they had done these as 5 separate palettes palettes. I can definitely see that because they do have very different color stories, but you can mix them a bit. But we'll get more into that when we get into the demo and I'll show you my fails and everything. So what do you actually physically get in here? These pans right here, the smaller ones, are 0.85 grams. I personally like to see eyeshadows at 1 gram or more. So these are getting closer to the size of, let's say, a Lorac Pro eyeshadow or an Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow. Those still are just a little bit smaller than these. And then these shades here are 1.42 grams of product. So those are a little bit more. That's getting more toward the traditional Urban Decay size. I think it's just a little bit more than the ones that are in like their naked palettes. As far as value goes, this is only going to matter if you plan on using this a lot and you plan on hitting pan and you want to have this kind of as an everyday go-to and you don't want to run out. So the value per gram on this is $3.37 total for the 19.28 grams of product. What I did was I went on Sephora's website and I looked up a few of the most popular palettes to compare the value. So also at $65, the Huda New Nudes palette, you get 19.7 grams, which is just a little bit more product than this. It's the same price, so it's $3.30 a gram, so just a little bit less, but it's comparable to how much you get in the Huda New Nudes palette. Also, the ABH Soft Glam was listed as being very popular right now. That's $4.05 per gram, so that's more expensive. A little bit less expensive, their Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette is $3.10 per gram. I'm assuming that the extra that you're paying, the extra 20 cents or so, you're paying for the packaging on top of that. And then the Too Faced Natural Lust palette, they have really increased their price per gram. Too Faced, they used to be in the $2.80 range per gram. The Natural Lust palette is $3.47 per gram now, which is a lot more than what they used to be. And you get 17 grams of product. So overall, this kind of fits in the middle as far as the popular palettes that are in comparable price ranges right now. And you do get the Game of Thrones, you know, licensing on it and everything, which I'm sure was quite expensive, you know, that they have to give them quite a big cut of profits, things like that. So I personally think that it's a very good deal for Game of Thrones fans. If you don't care about the Game of Thrones stuff and you're just looking at the eyeshadows, then it's an average deal. Let's talk a little bit about the ingredients of this palette. We have a talc-based product, so if a talc does not agree with your skin, you're not going to like this. Also, phenoxyethanol is a preservative. I know some of my subscribers are sensitive to that. I'm very sorry. Phenoxyethanol is in all of these. Also, in every single one of these shades is bismuth oxychloride, which is a pigment that is kind of a scratchy, rough pigment, and it definitely can irritate some people's eyes. If you've never had an eye irritation from an eyeshadow palette, you're probably not sensitive to it. I'm not personally sensitive to it. There's also carmine in all of these shadows. Carmine is made from crushed bugs, and people ask me all the time, how can it have carmine in it and be cruelty-free? Cruelty-free has to do specifically with animal testing. It doesn't have to do with the ingredients within the product and whether they come from animals. That's vegan. This is not a vegan product. You could actually take an entire horse from any of the calamities that horses go through in this show, and you could put it in this palette and it would still be cruelty-free, as long as you didn't test the eyeshadows on animals. That's just the way that cruelty-free is defined. So this can be cruelty-free even though it has carmine. None of these shadows are lip safe because they do have ingredients in here that have not been FDA approved for lip use. I wanted to mention, of those of you who are aware of palm oil derivatives for environmental reasons, the shades Lannister Red, House Lannister, and Nymeria they contain palmitic acid. So that is a palm oil derivative. Finally, I was done with my ingredient analysis. One of the reasons why I took so long to start this video today. I was done with my ingredient analysis and I quickly ran through the ingredients through Skin Charisma. Wasn't expecting to find anything, and I found an ingredient called isobutyl let's try that again. Isobutyl Okay, one more time. Isobutyl phenoxyepoxy resin. It is in all of the eyeshadows here. It is listed as a 9, which is the worst possible offender on environmental working group, which shocked me. It is a film forming agent and it is typically found in nail polishes. EWG says that it is a high concern for organ system toxicity, non-reproductive. I looked for probably about another 30-40 minutes trying to find the actual research studies that talk about why that ingredient is bad. Because, like, for example, there's aluminum powder in here. If you remember the story from The Wizard of Oz, how the original guy who played the Tin Man put aluminum powder all over himself and he ended up in the hospital, that's why EWG says that it is a terrible ingredient. But the way that it's used in eyeshadow and the concentration it's used in, it's not going to do the same thing as it did to the Tin Man. So sometimes the EWG ratings are inflated based on how the ingredients are used in makeup. So just because EWG says that it's a 9 doesn't necessarily mean that this eyeshadow palette is going to harm you. I could not find the research. So if you know anything about this ingredient, please let me know. Or if that just freaks you out that that is in this, I definitely recommend you stay far away from it. I am not planning on using this as an everyday palette, so I am personally not concerned about it at this point. I do have an email into Urban Decay, but because I just discovered it right before I started filming, they haven't had time to respond. So if any updates that I have for you, I will make sure I either heart the comment or pin the comment so you have that information. The next section of my video is brand controversies. There are people who look to a brand and the brand's behavior before purchasing products from them. So this is the information I like to provide to people where that is important. There are two schools of thought there, and I like to open up my videos to everyone. So one that was notable was in April of 2018, they released their Velvetizer powder, and there was some drama surrounding it because people peeled off the velvet label that was on there and saw that it said naked skin underneath, and people were thinking that what they did was they just took the naked skin powder, threw the Velvetizer label on it, and then resold it. The drama channel Sanders Kennedy did get a statement from Urban Decay, and I will put it on the screen right now. I just typed it up, but this is what they had said. Was basically they had all these extra naked skin containers after they discontinued the product, and they didn't want to waste all the containers, so they just threw another label on top, but the ingredients within the product are very, very different from the naked skin. It's not the same product. So I'm not sure if you heard that whole story, so that's why I wanted to mention it. The next one I can see probably upset a lot of people. In 2016, they had this photo on their Instagram. There was swatches of the razor sharp liquid eyeliner across the wrist, and their caption underneath it was, "Our secret to looking sharp, razor sharp liquid eyeliner." So people alluded to that they were making light of self-harm. Urban Decay did remove the post. They did make a Twitter post to apologize. They basically said they were just swatching it, like they swatch everything, and they were not alluding to self-harm in any way. And the last one is that they've been accused of glorifying drugs through their shade names. They did have a shade called Druggy. It was a cool purple with a frost finish that was in their After Dark eyeshadow palette. I had to look it up. And people were saying basically it's a night out palette, and then have a shade called Druggy. It's like glorifying that when you're out, you should be doing drugs. Some people may find that offensive. There was also a shade called Gash that was a deep red lipstick, and then Asphyxia, which was a soft lavender shadow, which may be a color that someone may turn when they're choking. So people found those to be in bad taste. So I figured I would let you know that those existed in case that influenced your purchasing of Urban Decay products. Decay. Urban Decay products. All right, so now that we've gone over everything you need to know about this actual product, let's go ahead and show how this eyeshadow palette performs. We're gonna start with swatches. If you're curious about why I swatch the way that I swatch, I will link a video down below about why swatches matter, why I believe they matter, in case you're curious about that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the swatches. Let's just do a quick close-up of the inside packaging of the palette so you can see it. Oh, there's my camera. That's you right now. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and open up the throne just so you can see it up close, what it looks like. And then we're gonna close that up, and we will pull the tab and pull out the palette. For brushes today, we're gonna be using the Makeup Geek foiled eyeshadow brush if we need it, but I do feel like the Royal & Langnickel Omnia shader brush will probably be enough, but we've got this for backup for foiled shades if this one's not working well. So each one of these finger swatches is just one dip into the pan, and each brush swatch is 2 dips into the pan. As far as my commentary on these, they're all very nice. The black is going to be one that you're going to need to work to do like a super black smoky eye and really get that glitter showing. But for the most part, what I'm going to be using this for is for kind of smoking out and dusting out and deepening the outer corner of my eye. If you are going to pack this over the lid, I definitely recommend using a fingertip. As far as these shimmery shades, they're all gorgeous in their own right, and they're all slightly different, but I don't think, as far as it being a functional palette, that it is really necessary to have both of these shades, and that they really are kind of similar. This one's just a little bit more silver, and this one's just a little bit more peach. I just noticed my mic wasn't in the right place, so I'm hoping that you could hear me okay, but I've just moved it, so hopefully the sound will get better now. Definitely favorite shade in this quint is this one here called Frozen North. It is so unique to my collection and beautiful. It just got such gorgeous shine, and I really, really love this one a lot. Close second is going to be White Walker, just because it's got that cool purple shift to it that I really, really like. And if you're new to my channel, you're new to the wipe test, and the purpose of this is to show if the shadows are staining the skin. A lot of the stains will remove with makeup remover, but this will show kind of through the day as your eyes blink, as you're in wind, as you're going about your day, whether you'll probably still see shadow on your eyes throughout the day. So I'm gonna just go ahead and take my towel and give it a quick wipe this way so that I don't wipe the black all the way up into the other shades. Usually, of course, darker shades are going to last better than lighter shades, and as you can see, just the black and the blue shade, the Frozen North shade, are the ones that are the ones staying, and I'm definitely not surprised about that. The Stark House ones are the ones that I was the most excited to try, and I find them to be kind of the most difficult combination to work with on the eye. A Nymeria shade I feel like is very easy to work with, so is Winter is Here. I find that Werewood Leaves is a little bit more difficult. As you could see in the brush swatch, I did have to pack a bit, so I tend to kind of apply this with my fingertip and then pack it on with a brush, and that seemed to work pretty well. But it's one of my least favorite shades in the palette as far as performance. The Sight is an interesting shade. It does have a black undertone to it, so it's really a black with a green over top of it, so keep that in mind when you're using it. The shade Winterfell is definitely the most difficult shade to work with in the palette. It's very chunky when you dip your brush into it. Let me show you. It's very soft, and it can make kind of a mess. It's just a very different kind of formula. You can feel the binding agents just holding this shadow together, and it's just difficult to work with overall, but if you know what you're doing, you'll probably do a great job with it. It's beautiful packed in the inner corner of the eye. All right, let's go ahead and try the wipe test. We're going to go this way this time. You can definitely still see a hint of shadow from each one, and I have found that the shades in this quint definitely last a nice long time on the eye. I haven't had any trouble with them at all. Now it comes to this Cersei Lannister quint. Just to make sure it wasn't my fault with the swatch, I'm gonna go ahead and swatch that one again, just to make sure I have the full opacity there. There you go. Okay, so here's the Lannister quint, and I was a little nervous before I got this that Casterly Rock and Winter is Here, which I'll swatch on my finger. I was a little nervous that these would be too close to the same color, but I'm going to swatch it like up at the top so you can see they're really quite different, where this one is much more, I don't know, it's got kind of almost like a purple undertone, where this one's more brassy, bronzy, orangey. I find all of these shades are really easy to use, and actually my favorite shade here is King's Landing. I really love this shade, and it's just the perfect King's Landing shade in my 6th season opinion. Let's go ahead and do the wipe test. Okay, and only the deeper shades are to be seen, which makes a good bit of sense. I really was hoping that the House Lannister shade would do much better than it did, and also Red Keep. I was a little disappointed. And then finally, this is the quint that I think is definitely the most unique to this palette, and the one that I was most excited about, the Targaryen one, which I think that if Daenerys, I think I said this earlier, I think if Daenerys was gonna wear eyeshadow, this would probably be the colors I could see her wearing, especially like the pink and the gold here, and maybe this purple. I don't know. They look like Daenerys colors to me, even though she doesn't wear makeup. I can't remember if I swatched this twice now or not. I was thinking about something else, so let's just swatch it one more time just in case. I do think these are some of the most interesting ones. I find the irony in Bend the Knee, it being this soft fairy-like pink. You know, you bend the knee to say that you are loyal to whatever king or queen happens to be in power in that moment. And I love that it's this soft feminine fairy purple. I think that's so cool. And you can see that really neat blue shift in there. It's so cool. I also really love Bay of Dragons. That one's really fun. The shade Stormborn is probably my biggest disappointment in this palette. It is workable. You just kind of have to pack and you know, keep kind of going back and forth to get the shade that you want. But you can see there is that black undertone, and it is a bit streaky, and I find that to be the same on the eye. So let's go ahead and do the wipe test on these. And because these are mostly kind of more toppery shades, they do blend away through the wipe test, except for the black that's left in Stormborn. The next thing I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to break these up a little differently so you can get a different perspective on the palette and what you're getting. So I'm gonna swatch shades that kind of look similar, but maybe in different quints. So these are all the lighter, topper, duochrome kinds of shades. I thought it might be interesting for you to see them all together. These are the 3 matte shades in the palette. They really are very strong, good mattes. And I like that there's kind of a lighter, a more medium, and a deeper matte shade. It would be kind of nice to have one matte shade that's just even a little deeper than this. Here are all of the gold and brown and bronze kind of metallic-y looking shades. And then finally, here are the shades that don't really fit anywhere else, those jewel tones, and then our sparkly black. And you'll notice the satin finish of this that's quite different from the rest of the foileds that are in the palette. This one is definitely unique in formula compared to the other ones, in that it definitely isn't as much foiled as it is more of a flatter, smooth satin shade. All right, now that you have seen swatches of the product, hopefully you found that helpful. I'm going to go ahead and show you a demo of how I got this look today. And this eyeshadow palette beat me a couple of times. I had a couple of fails. I am going to leave those in for you because I feel like, you know, it's good to see that some things don't work so that you don't make the same mistakes that I do. And if you find this to be a little bit more difficult to work with because of watching the things that I tried and seeing that they didn't work, I just want you to be able to see that to help your purchasing decision. So let's go ahead and get into that right now.
My old lovers fall into my covers where they sink one by one. Yeah, I watch them disappear to nothing, disposable as chewing gum. There are deal breakers where I come from. My family don't suffer, fools gladly know. Do we kiss and lie in bed to fill awkward silences? Do we feel emptiness afterwards? 'Cause I want something deeper. If I'ma find a keeper, not saying I'm some genius, but I'm smart. Yeah, I love a cry for help, but I'm tired of lying with liars. You're the truth, I'm scared to tell. There are deal breakers where I come from. My family don't suffer, fools glad they know. Do we kiss and lie in bed to fill awkward silences? Do we feel emptiness afterwards? 'Cause I want something deeper. If I'ma find a keeper, not saying I'm some genius, but I'm smart enough to know I'm worth fighting for. Yeah, I want something deeper. If I find him, I'm a keeper. Not saying I'm some genius, but I'm smart enough to know I'm worth fighting for. You're showing me something that's deeper. We're so close, but still we can nearer. You're showing me something that's deeper. We're so close, but still we can nearer. 'Cause I want something deeper. If I'ma find a keeper, not saying I'm some genius, but I'm smart enough to know I'm worth fighting for. Yeah, I want something deeper. If I find him, I'm a keeper. Not saying I'm some genius, but I'm smart enough to know I'm worth fighting for.
So yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle. Just a little bit of a struggle, but it was because I was trying to go out of the box. I was trying to do something different, and it just failed on me. I did have a couple of looks that did succeed, at least in my opinion, using the White Walker side. What is it called? They don't call it White Walker, do they? No, the North. So I did do a look, I'll put it up on the screen right now, of the North, and then I also did one of the House Targaryen. I didn't use those as much today. I really focused mostly on the other two, so I wanted to show you those two looks so you can kind of see an idea of how they might look. I don't Facetune. They are just straight off of my iPhone without any extra frills. So that is it for this part of the video. Now we're going to go into the wear test time. It is currently very late. It is 4:18 in the afternoon. I've had this on for about an hour, so we'll be back at the end of the night, and that'll be as late as possible before my eyes start closing. We'll be back, and I'll give you my full review of this palette, and you can see the wear test results. So hang tight, happening for you in just a second. All right, day is done. It is currently 11:45 at night. It is time for me to start winding down for the evening. But before we wind down for the evening, we need to do a check-in for the look for today. It's been over 8 hours, and this is how my eyeshadow currently looks. I feel like it still looks pretty good. Like if I was walking around work at the end of the day, I would still be okay with the way my eyeshadow looks. And that's pretty consistent for how I felt about this palette overall. When I put the footage from earlier into the editor, I realized that the close-up of this look, I am not actually very happy with. The far away look, I think, looks pretty good. I feel like I wish that I had put a little bit more of this Winter is Here shade to kind of blend the black in with some of the other browner shades that I have. I didn't really do a nice gradient there. It just kind of was black and brown without any kind of way to make the black kind of meld in with the rest of the browns in there. So that's a regret, but that was my application error. It wasn't the fault of the palette. So the packaging. Yeah, it's big, it's bulky, it's a display piece is what it is. This isn't meant to be your go-to travel palette. That's not what this was designed to be. This was designed to be something cool you can put on your shelf, so when people come in to where you do your makeup, they can be like, oh, is that so cool? It's Game of Thrones, it's awesome. Like, that's what this is meant to be. And then you can be like, oh yeah, and then when you open it up, you like got the quotes inside, and then you've got a big, Iron Throne inside, and they're like, yeah, that's cool. Like, that's the purpose of the packaging. Like, it's not for functionality in any way at all. But as far as the eyeshadows go, I really, really like the formula. I feel like they are overall relatively easy to blend, relatively easy to work with. The only shade here that I find that's difficult to work with is the shade Winterfell, because it is so incredibly chunky. It doesn't really go with the rest of the shades. So it works really well as like an inner corner sparkle. But whenever I try to add it, like you saw earlier when I messed up, whenever I try to add it like on my lid, unless it's all over my lid, I feel like it just doesn't, it ends up standing out too much in that the rest of the shadows kind of fall back behind it. They just can't keep up with the shade Winterfell. The rest of the shades I don't have that same problem with. Now, these shades down here, I did not have high hopes for. I really didn't think that I would like them because they are so sheer to go on. But if you put down a nice base, like the way that I did with the look that you saw earlier, I put down the Makeup Revolution Cut Crease Canvas when I did this look with these, and it turned out beautiful. So if you have a really opaque concealer and you don't have a problem with creasing on your lids with that concealer, you can throw that down, throw down a MAC paint pot, something like that to give you a nice opaque base to top these over top, and it works beautifully. As far as fallout goes, there is some fallout during application if you don't tap your brush off, but the palette doesn't make a big mess when you put your brush into them. You don't get a ton of kick up of wasted powder as you're tapping into them like you might get in, let's say, an ABH eyeshadow palette, which is really, really nice, with the exception of Winterfell, which I feel like, again, is kind of the messy shade in the palette. As far as color selection, I feel like they did a really nice job matching the houses and the themes of the different Game of Thrones characters and families, and, the North section here. I feel like if Cersei was going to wear eyeshadow, if Sansa was going to wear eyeshadow, if the Night King was going to wear eyeshadow, Jon Snow, if they were going to wear eyeshadow, it would be this. I mean, really and truly, I feel like it really does match very well with the characters. Now, as far as working with it as an actual eyeshadow palette, the only section I have trouble working with as a quint here is the Stark section, because if you think about the color wheel, you've got these two shades here that really can't go well together. I did try it today. I didn't think it was going to work, and it didn't, because they're just so far away from each other. You really need some kind of transition in between these in order to make those work, at least from my experience today. That being said, you can kind of do a look here with the browns and the green. You can do the browns and the purple. It's just the purple and the green don't really go well together. But other than that, honestly, like, I feel like I can get a look out of each of these quints, or actually some of the multiple looks out of a quint, and get a really nice cohesive look without too much thought. As far as it being similar to eyeshadows that I already own, I feel like this bottom quint, the Targaryen quint, I feel like this one is definitely by far the most unique. This one we've seen probably a million times in some variation. King's Landing is really cool because it's got that gold sheen to it, which I really, really like. This one reminds me a lot of, I think it was a Smashbox Cover Shot palette. This one kind of reminds me of that in my brain. I don't know if it really is. This one here I feel like is a unique combination to put together, but I don't feel like any of these shades, except for maybe the Sight here. That one I feel like maybe you might not have it if you don't have that kind of deeper green, but I feel like the rest are relatively common. I also feel like these are all relatively common, except for maybe Frozen North, just because it is that deeper sea blue. Usually the sea blues that you see in palettes are like a lighter sea blue, and this one is deeper, which I really like. White Walker is also a really fun shade. It's got a nice cool blue shift to it. It's very, very neat. I really like that one a lot. So for me, I feel like there's enough unique shades in here that makes it worth a purchase for me. And also, I just love it as a display piece. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think that it's super cool, especially if you're a fan of the show. I highly recommend this palette. If you're not a fan of the show and you like really neat duochrome kinds of toppers, I would probably recommend this because there's quite a few of them in here. Now, who do I think this is not going to be for? Of course, if you are anti-Game of Thrones, this is not going to be for you. I also don't think it's going to be for you if you like a lot of natural colors, because this is not meant to create a lot of natural looks. Yes, you can create some natural looks, but you can get a natural look palette. You can get the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette or something if you're looking for more natural looks. This is more of a fun, play, artsy kind of palette rather than one that would be like an everyday worker school professional where you can't wear a lot of color palette. Like, that's not really what this is for. As far as beginner friendly, I would say this is probably an intermediate palette. I think beginners could use this, but I think it might be a little bit of a challenge. I know that I've struggled with some of the looks like you saw today, but overall, I haven't found this to be incredibly difficult to work with, where I would say this would be more for makeup artists and professionals. I think that someone who has decent amount of makeup skills would be able to use this palette and enjoy it. So as far as my final thought on this, my opinion, I honestly really like it. If we're going cute or poop, we're definitely going cute on this, and I can't wait to use it more and also have it displayed up on my shelf because I think it's really cool looking. So my friend, you know what time it is. It is your turn in the collective brain of makeup awesomeness, where we help each other not to buy crap and to buy things that are totally worth it. It's your turn to chime in on the Game of Thrones palette. If you do not own it, are you planning on purchasing it? Are you thinking about it? Are you not sure what's stopping you from purchasing it? Because if you think it's crap, maybe someone that'll resonate with someone, and then you'll help them to decide maybe it's not worth it for them. If you did purchase it and you enjoy it, I would love to know what you love most about it. Let's all help each other down in the comments below. And if someone helps you, give them a thumbs up, little thank you comment down below. While you're doing that, you can also thumbs up this video if you did find it helpful, because this is the end, my friend. This is the no. I did enjoy creating this video for you, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Mad love to you, and I will see you in a video very, very soon. Bye!